Hello, my name is Adam J. Almenas, and I'm here to discuss the death penalty for my persuasive speech. For my persuasive speech. What is the death penalty? Capital punishment, more commonly known as the death penalty, is a state-sanctioned practice of deliberately executing an individual for a crime they committed or supposedly committed. This entails an authorized governed rule process to conclude that the individuals are responsible for violating the norms that warrant said execution. Here are some facts and recent information about the death penalty. According to Pew Research Center, 78% of Americans are in favor of the death penalty, despite concerns about its administration. Within the last year, the death penalty's usage is declining in the United States of America. The main factor is that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, less individuals were executed. Fewer people were executed last year than within the last 30 years as of the year 2021. About 8 out of 10 Americans are in favor of the death penalty. However, these 8 out of 10 believe that there are some risks involving executing a prisoner. One of these risks include executing potentially innocent people. The crime that most people commit on death row is usually murder. Approximately 21% of Americans believe that there are adequate safeguards that are put into place to prevent the innocent from being executed. Did you know that just 30% of the death penalty supporters and 6% of those that oppose it say that the safeguards are put into place to prevent people from being executed? 56% of Americans say that African Americans are more likely to be executed than white people accused of the same crimes. This view is widespread by a huge margin amongst the African American community. These stats come from African American voters over the age of 18 years of age. 61% of Hispanic adults and 49% of white adults claim this statement. More than 6 out of 10 Americans, or 48%, claim that the death penalty doesn't prevent citizens from committing serious crimes. Support for the death penalty is strongly correlated with the belief that when a person commits murder, the death penalty serves justice. However, among the United States public, 64% of Americans say that the death penalty is morally justified when crimes occur. 33% of Americans counteract this argument and say that the death penalty still serves no justice. A landslide of death penalty supporters, which equals to about 90%, say it is morally justified under said circumstances. In the U.S., just 25% of those that oppose the death penalty are under those circumstances. There are other divided groups amongst Americans' opinions regarding the death penalty. I will now discuss those said groups. Some other factors and people of these said groups include the ethnicities of Americans, the political party or political spectrum of Americans, the level of education Americans have possessed, as well as the age of Americans and the age groups that they fall into. A little over 3/4 of Republicans and independents that lean more towards the GOP and its stance say that they favor the death penalty for people convicted of murder, which includes about 40% who strongly agree with the death penalty. On the other hand, of the polyspectrum on the political spectrum. Democrats and those that lean more towards the left are more divided on the topic of the death penalty, aka capital punishment. 46% of Democrats favored the death penalty. However, 53% of Democrats are opposed to the death penalty. This is in comparison to just about 17% of those that strongly favor it. Since the year 2020, the amount of Republicans that say they favor the death penalty has decreased or declined by about 7%. The Democrats have also claimed that this factor remains unchanged. 46% of those in the year 2022, 49% of those Democrats in the year 2019. Conservative Republicans are more likely to express their support for the death penalty versus moderate and liberal Republicans. A clear majority of all Republicans favored the death penalty. The statistical numbers show that 82% of conservative Republicans agree on the matter, as well as 68% of moderate and liberal Republicans. Among Democrats, 55% of the majority of the conservatives and the moderate conservatives favored the death penalty. This position is viewed by 36% of liberal Democrats and around 64% of liberal Democrats that oppose the death penalty. 1/3 of the liberal Democrats are strongly opposing the death penalty, in comparison to just 14% of conservatives, as well as their more moderate Republican counterparts. As you can see from the data, and like I mentioned before, people's support for the death penalty is different across different racial groups. The majority of white people, 63%, favor the death penalty. Asian people are at the same as white people, favoring the death penalty at 63%. Hispanic people at 56% favor the death penalty. These percents are based just solely on murder and not other horrendous crimes. However, African Americans are evenly divided on the topic of death penalty. 49% of African Americans are in favor of the death penalty, while a similar amount are against it. Even college students have more liberal views when it comes to the death penalty, such as if you come from a more highly educated college background, you will more likely not favor the death penalty, whereas if you have less college level education, you will favor the death penalty. I believe personally that the death penalty is good based solely on criminals that commit the most horrendous crimes, and I believe that good taxpayers' monies should not go to hardened criminals that commit the most horrendous crimes. Prison is just a lower version of a hotel with free accommodations, and I'm strongly against that. Thank you for listening.